Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you that's going to be something of a wild ride because it's about the game Warface, and there's a lot more and a lot crazier stuff going on with Warface than I thought, because the last time I really played the game was like 3 years ago when it was much simpler. Today's video is sponsored by My Games, the publisher of Warface, which is a free-to-play first-person shooter on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, with about 86 million registered players. It's been out for a very long time. I want to say 3-4 years ago maybe. I played it when it first came out, and when it first came out it was a relatively simple free-to-play COD replacement, but it's grown into an entirely different beast then and has so much stuff going on with it. I actually felt overwhelmed when I sat down to do this video. There's a link to download and play below, and if you enter my promo code, which is right beside the link down there in the description, new players will be given bonus loot. It's free, so you can install it on PC for free. If you're on console, you can click the link and link your console account. The game's had a huge amount of expansions and updates and content seasons and battle passes and one-offs and just tons and tons of stuff, so that now we're up to 400 different real-life weapons and a few fantasy ones. You know, there's a lot of COD stuff, some weapons that you might see that are familiar to you if you've played Call of Duty, but there's a ton of them. It's like having all the COD weapons. There's a crafting system too, so you can save up parts and scraps and kind of craft your way up on these weapons, which is nice. And there's a metric ton of PvE and co-op missions now, some of which tell their own unique story, which is what we're about to get into because it surprised me, and so much multiplayer that I won't even be able to cover all of it in this video, including its own battle royale, which I'm actually terrible at, so you're not going to see any gameplay of that because I basically just bumbled around and got smashed. So when you first install the game, you go through your training, you do your setup, it's going to guide you toward PvE, which I think is their bread and butter experience. It seems to be what they've put the most work on, and it looked very straightforward at first. What you're watching right now is gameplay of my first PvE mission. I broke out my AK, I'm killing people in Vegastan or Iraqistan, somewhere in the Middle East, you know, terrorist bad guys. Oh look, the Russian government supplying them with big radar towers. I kind of wasn't really paying attention because it felt more like a Call of Duty mission, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere there's a mech, and the mech is shooting rockets at you, and you're in like ancient Afghanistan Coliseum, and people are coming out, and you have to kill the people coming out and get the rockets, shoot the mech's legs, and then when the mech goes down you have to take out the power core on its head and blow up the mechs and make sure that the Taliban doesn't have advanced Metal Gear weaponry. And I'm like, whoa, that escalated really quickly. So I realized very early on that the campaign and the missions and the PvE for this were going to be a lot wilder than I expected. I expected like sort of modern, grounded, realistic Call of Duty stuff. The next mission I decided to take a look at is the newest to the game on PC. It's called Blackwood, and it pits former good guy Wega agents who have been forcibly recruited into Blackwood against their own people, and it opens up with a 5-minute motion comic that explains all the backstory and apparently a long, ongoing, complex story that I didn't know that much about. And it was a good comic and a good story too. It kind of like pulled me in, it kind of like caught me by surprise. And apparently this story of the characters that you're playing has been going on for years and ages, and it seems to have depth and character and stuff going on in a way that reminds me a lot of COD Zombies. You kind of get like an intro and an outro, and then some story bits and character quips as you go along, and I very much so got that feel for it. In the little motion comic before the mission, it's explained that you and your squad have been betrayed, and you have been captured, and you're given a choice between death or working for the bad guys, so you ultimately end up choosing to work for the bad guys, and you have to assault your own American, or not, well, Wega military base, which is similar in power, but you're fighting against your own, so that's kind of an unusual dynamic. It's kind of the story of conscripted soldiers. And Blackwood might as well be Blackwater, or now Academy, the real-life military people. And Wega's like America, UN, like Allied Forces kind of military, but there's some overlap with PMC kind of stuff as well. So you've kind of got this like very near future combat scenario where you have regular soldiers fighting private armies, and they might even, you know, be from the same country, and it's kind of crazy. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're gonna storm the Blackwater base. Oh, they're, you know, rich, so they've got fancy tech. This is gonna be really neat. And then all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, we have to take over a cyborg brain control tower, like a giant radar tower. We have to split our team in half and put 3 guys in these little pods so that they can Neuralink with cyborgs and go disable some power core or something that would kill human beings, because, you know, the air and the heat and stuff would just kill you. So 3 of us defend while 3 of them go battle whatever in the world is going on down there in the tower and blow up the technology and come back out. And that was challenging enough in and of itself, especially people shooting rockets at you. And I'm like, oh god, you know, I survived this, we do the cyborg, we do the tower, and then all of a sudden, we have to do it again, but the bad guys also have, like, super cyborgs like Gray Fox coming around and, like, some crazy sci-fi stuff out of nowhere, and I wasn't man enough to finish that. I got smashed in this mission. I didn't make it any further than that, but it was still a very surprising twist for, again, something that I thought was going to be relatively... I was like, okay, you know, cool, there's a sci-fi element, it's near future tech, and it's like, nope, we got cyborgs now. So after I was done dying there, I backed out, and I took a look around, and there's a mission that popped up that said Mars. And I thought, oh, you know, Mars, the god of war. It's probably going to be about, you know, some sort of really big moment in a war, or maybe something about a satellite around Mars or some sort of Martian intelligence. No, you actually go to Mars. You literally... the Martian mission actually came before the Blackwood one. Nope, absolutely none of that was correct. It was literally a mission on Mars. Most of the mission takes place on the surface of Mars, where you play as a SED, or synthetic engineered double, basically a cyborg double that you can control with your brain. And you've got crazy space weapons, and you're fighting Terminator robots. They're making a bunch of Terminator jokes. Then you're killing a much bigger robot, which is a mech, and you have to disable the head and then deal damage to it, kind of like the mech that we fought earlier. And then after we're done saving colonists and fighting cyborgs, we have to take out the bad guy military base on Mars, which is filled with angry robot spiders that like to crawl on the walls and chase you around when you're trapped in a laser grid. And in order to get through the laser grid, you gotta let your lady hacker friend, Noda, hack all the stuff and move you around, but then bad guys come out to shoot you through the lasers, so you're dodging lasers and shooting bad guys in the middle of a gunfight. And as you can tell, things have gotten a little bit crazy at this point. They've gotten a little bit out of hand, and I was really not expecting that from this game. I was expecting to sit down and play some version of modern military shooter, some version of bumble around Iraq, kill the terrorists, maybe a Russian bad guy shows up who's funding everything, and we're done. But no, they've given me something much, much wilder, and as a personal taste of mine, I really like things that are wild. I really like things that are fun and crazy, something that kind of goes the distance. And even if it's not like the greatest quality thing, something, as long as they're willing to go balls out and do it for reals, I appreciate that. And that's kind of how I feel with this campaign, in that they really just kind of went balls out and just decided to throw everything out there and make it real and make it serious. And to me, that's very fun. So we've talked about half the game. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about the PvP, or actual multiplayer elements of the game, because I have a feeling that's what most of you are going to be more interested in. So multiplayer is kind of the same story of PvP. It's crazier than I expected, mostly in its scale. You've got a lot of basic modes. You've got Team Deathmatch. You've got a mode that I would call Progressive Domination. It's kind of like Rush and Battlefield, where you capture the point one at a time with a time limit. Search and Destroy, Demolition type modes, you've got VIP protection type modes, and then you've got a Battle Royale, which there's so much going on, I couldn't even dive into that. But no, a real whole Battle Royale is there, and all of the PvE stuff carries over to your multiplayer. So you can even play as one of the minigun synthetic engineered double guys, the SED guys, and you can walk around in regular multiplayer with miniguns, and I don't find them very fun or that good because they're not very tanky, and the minigun is all hip fire. I find that to be very hard to use. And I don't know, just kind of just like expecting like a COD Juggernaut tank, but I didn't get that. However, I do have to admit that it's very fun to have custom miniguns. To be able to like have camo on my minigun and like a variety of minigun choices was super fun for me. But all the stuff from PvP, like medics reviving, engineers giving armor, riflemen giving ammo, and all the roles and like little abilities and stuff carry over, and you can do that in basic multiplayer. I'm going to say that most of them don't matter a whole lot. The self-healing ones are nice, but you don't really help teammates a whole lot unless you're playing S&D or some kind of mode that doesn't have respawns. But most of the players seem to gravitate toward the respawn modes, and I play those too because they're kind of fast and simple and easy to get into and out of. Multiplayer will feel very CoD-like to you. I want to say it's a little bit slower paced than most Call of Duty. Call of Duty's been a little bit cracked out lately, though they do have a really long slide that you'll see some people doing. Now, I didn't do it very much because I always just basically slid into my own death in a lot of... I like playing a little slower than that. But there's some neat slides, there's some neat things you can do where you boost your teammates up and down, where they can get you into like you can just like jump on your buddy's back and then pick them up over a ledge, which is kind of nice. And one of the smaller features that I think is super underrated was that you have increasing hit marker size until the enemies are dead. And you've probably already seen this, but I shoot an enemy and their little X gets bigger and redder until they finally dead. And I think that's a very clever indicator for enemy health, perhaps more clever than what we've had in COD and other games, as it doesn't disrupt my vision at all. It doesn't like layer or hover over the enemies, and I can see it and I can know exactly what's going on. I think that's really clever. It's a really underrated feature. All of the weapons carry over. Most of the weapons and classes and guns seem fair, surprisingly. So Warface is a free-to-play game monetized by microtransactions, not all of which are cosmetic. Not all of the weapon upgrades are cosmetic. Some of them will give you more or less recoil, more or less damage, rate of fire. Some of the you have to unlock attachments. Some armor pieces can give you more armor, less armor, more movement speed, and a lot of different like stat changing things, which in games like this typically means that something's going to be completely broken and abusable and the guy with the big money just kind of wins. But at least for multiplayer, I found that not to be the case at all, because the health is really low. Like it's pretty similar to Call of Duty, if not lower. A lot of weapons will kill in one headshot instantly at almost any range. So if you're headshotting people, they're going to die instantly almost regardless of what weapon you have. Maybe like pistols or like some of the weaker SMGs, but rifles up, headshots send people to Pound Town. And body shots is typically 3, 4, maybe 5 at like super long ranges. So even if you didn't buy all the cool weapons or you haven't grinded it out forever to have all the rare stuff, you're still going to be able to kill people pretty easily. Just so long as your shots hit, they are going to die. And I didn't see free players having a hard time killing anybody or anything. Most of them like to sit in little corners and wait on me. And as far as my overall opinion about Warface, I just feel genuinely surprised by it, almost overwhelmed in a way. It's a gigantic, massive game that has grown completely off of my radar, because like I said, the last time I played it was at launch when it came out, and it was kind of like a free-to-play COD alternative, and since then it's just grown and grown and grown and evolved, and now it's its own massive game with this crazy story and characters of Blackwood versus Wega and a crafting system. More weapons and character roles and classes that I can keep track of, and more modes than I can keep track of. And it's just like literally some games like, yeah, we got like an expanded universe. Well, this game definitely has it. And that's kind of my, I guess you could say it's a review. It's not supposed to be a review because it's a sponsored video. We're supposed to do like impressions and show some gameplay. We'll just say that's my general thoughts on Warface. If you click my link in the description to download the game, new players will receive a bunch of items in-game for free just for signing up, so you get some special stuff for using my link. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.